Last week, you expanded your understanding of narrative medicine. We considered the idea of narrative humility, drawing on the work of Dasgupta. And we considered Arthur Frank's idea, or his challenge, to tell good stories about our experiences of illness, injury, or disability. Stories that somehow repair the damage that illness does to us. This week, you will begin a creative writing project of your own. You may recall that those working in narrative medicine believe that creative writing, the telling of one's own illness narratives, can in fact increase the empathy of future healthcare professionals or practicing healthcare professionals. We will test that idea this week. You will begin a creative writing project, the goal of which is to increase your own empathy. And at the end, you will reflect on whether or not the project has made a contribution to that end. Before I turn to specific instructions related to the creative writing project, I want to introduce you to another aspect of Arthur Frank's work on illness narratives. Frank believes that there are generally three types of narratives that provide templates for us that shape how we tell our own illness stories. He calls these restitution narratives, chaos narratives, and quest narratives. Frank says that our storytelling is shaped by the stories we hear from others in our communities and our culture. That's why he says, or part of why he says, storytelling is a moral act. When we tell a story, we draw upon our connections to others and the stories they have told. And then when we tell our own story, we deepen those connections with those who are listening. Furthermore, he believes that the trove of stories on which we draw as we attempt to tell our own stories typically fall into certain types that provide a kind of template to guide us in the telling of our stories. He says that a narrative type is the most general storyline that can be recognized underlying the plot and tensions of particular stories. People tell their own unique stories, but they compose those stories by adapting and combining narrative types that cultures make available. As I've already said, Frank believes that our culture provides us three types or three templates for telling our illness stories. He acknowledges there may be more types, but these three, he believes, are the dominant ones. I have provided you a link to an essay that discusses his three types and proposes an additional one or two. It's an optional read, but I recommend it. In suggesting that our illness narratives tend to fall within the framework provided by these three types of narratives, he's not suggesting that each person's illness story isn't original. Indeed, he thinks each one is original. Moreover, he believes that no particular story conforms perfectly to any of the types. Indeed, often our stories combine elements of each of the types. He writes, in any illness, all three narrative types are told alternatively and repeatedly. At one moment in an illness, one type may guide the story. As the illness progresses, the story becomes told through other narratives. The particularity of any experiential moment can thus be described by the narrative type that predominates at that moment. The three narratives are like patterns in a kaleidoscope. For a moment, the different colors are given one specific form, then the tube shifts and another form emerges. The telling of these stories, particularly the writing of oral stories, isolates the story of the moment from the narrative flux that marks lived storytelling. At the bedside, the kaleidoscope turns much more quickly than in print.